without smileys, it looks smiles back, to get those back, and those back go back to this. You wait for the full brush. Get ready for possible better.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Healing with Soul podcast. It is your go-to resource for parents and want-to-be parents who strive for success without sacrificing connection and well-being. Each episode delivers actionable strategies and inspiring insights to help you build emotional intelligence and resilience for yourself and for your family. Strengthen relationships with yourself, your partner, and your children. Master parenting and entrepreneur even while raising young children. Discover life and parenting hacks that simplify your journey. Explore hypnosis and other healing modalities for a deeper transformation. This podcast isn't just about parenting and a fertility journey. It's about creating harmony, wealth, and alignment in every area of life. Let's get started.
Welcome to Healing for Soul podcast, sponsored by Supermom Robin Stoltman, where every week I feature different guests to empower you to become the best version of yourself through different methods you may not have heard of or thought of. And this is season 6, episode number 45. And today I have my guest, April Ratchford, MSOT/L, is a late diagnosed autistic occupational therapist and the creator of the acclaimed podcast, Adulting with Autism. April's work bridges lived experience, expert knowledge, and raw storytelling, empowering autistic adults, advocates, and families around the globe. April's podcast, Adulting with Autism, is recognized for its practical exploration of neurodivergent adulthood, ranking in the Apple Podcasts top 200 with over 2 million downloads and an engaged international audience. Through candid interviews and educational solo episodes, April gives a platform to voices shaping policy, advocacy, and inclusion in the adult autism community. And today we are talking about the autism and bridging this gap with adults. So thank you so much, April, for being here. I appreciate it.
Listen, thank you for having me.
So, what's the inspiration behind your podcast and where do we bridge this gap?
So, I started it on behalf of my own kiddo who, when he was 19, he failed out of college. And it was a traumatic experience for him because he felt like he should have done like his cousins because my niece and nephew were sailing through college and both of them are autistic. And his experience was so traumatic that he got depressed, he was angry, and there were really no services for him. And I looked for podcasts for transitioning, I looked for podcasts for me. I was like, where are these supports for these kids once they transition? And there weren't any. And I just kept complaining and complaining. And finally, my fiance threw a mic at me and said, start a podcast. I said, I don't know how to start a podcast. He said, you just need this freaking mic. There you go.
Yeah,
And
pretty much.
here I am. I'm not even 2 years old yet. This podcast won't hit 2 years until January 1, 2026.
Well, that's exciting though, because you're doing something right when the speed is going so fast that there obviously is very much a need for it, which there is. Because I've had mine since 2019, but I've been kind of slow on it. I'm not super fast paced, but I'm like, this is awesome that you've got so many listeners and that you've hit over that 2 million downloads, for your podcast, and being in the top 200 is awesome. That's amazing.
Listen, it was a work of love. Like, and I was like, we got to do all the things because they grow so fast and it comes up so quick. People forget autism doesn't stop at 18 and the services need to continue, especially when they want to be contributing adults into the global world.
Well, yeah, exactly on that part, because it's like it just doesn't stop, and it's like once it starts, that there's something different. Like, how did you know that your son had the autism? Because you said he didn't diagnosed wasn't 19 or was it 20? You said.
He was diagnosed at 10. My sister was an occupational therapist before I was. I was a
Okay.
nurse prior. So
Oh,
she pegged him at 2. She's like, he's got autism. And I was like, no, he's just a little shy. She was like, there ain't been a kid I treated that didn't like Thomas the Train that is not on the spectrum like he is. And I was like, what are we gonna do? She was like, we'll try to get him tested. And what she did was put supports in place for him automatically. So he used to flap. She made him put his hands in the pockets, and she did all the things. So when you looked at him, you didn't know because she did all these things in place. And
yeah.
he socialized with my niece and nephew, which my niece was 7 months older. So he just huddled right behind her and modeled after her because she was more social. Even though she had autism, we weren't aware back then in the early 2000s. Girls were a little bit different. She was a little social butterfly. She just ran around and did the things. But even then, when I tested them, they looked at me when I went to a testing center and they were like, he doesn't have autism. He just has anxiety. And I looked and I was like, what I wanted to do was be unprofessional and cuss them all out and say, what do you know? What kid do you know has anxiety and anxiety about what? Do you think that's normal?
Hmm.
And I was like, okay. And my sister's like, and at the time I had decided to go back to school to get my degree to become a bachelor's and master's in my nursing because I was only an LPN. She goes, he's going to need you. Switch your major to OT. You can do what I do. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know what you do. She goes, just come to the dark side. I was like, okay. Switched my major to support him. Graduated, got him tested again. He was diagnosed at 10, and off we went.
So how does that background help you then, like with the OT,
So
and then your sister having that too?
So what we did is we put everything in place at home that wasn't there in the school system. We treated them just like neurotypical kids. He didn't know what that meant because actually my son not only has autism, he has spina bifida. So he was
Oh,
born with he's got 2 disabilities, but you can't tell because he
yeah.
did so well. So he just walks around like everybody else. You would see more of the autism than you do the spina bifida. So we put things in place so they just didn't know. Like she opted for my oldest nephew. He was born in 97. She knew he was on that spectrum, Asperger's at the time it was called. And she opted not to get him tested because she knew if she threw a label on him, it would just hold him back. So she didn't. And he graduated with his bachelor's degree in computer technology from Bethune-Cookman. So he's off and running, doing his thing. My niece got tested after college. We knew something was off about her. We just didn't know what. And they were like, yeah, she's on the spectrum. We were like, yeah, we should have known. She was a little off. I mean, this was a kid who rode her tricycle down steps twice. And we were like, did you, why would you do that? She was like,
She rode her bike down the steps, the tricycle.
yes, twice. And we looked at her and we're like, did the cause and effect not? We, now we know she's on the spectrum and that was just her thing, sensory wise. And here I am, late diagnosed. And I was like, oh, that's why I had meltdowns in school and make poor decisions. And
Ah,
I failed out of college 5 times. So, because I couldn't focus, couldn't handle, didn't like class. So I didn't go. Didn't pull it together until I was around 30, which is scary because I had my son at 26. So,
yeah.
and figured out my sister's more than likely an Audi as her. So she probably has autism and ADHD. So it's a genetic component in my family. Just runs like that.
Wow. So when you say Audi, is that just like person with autism? Is that like short
Yeah,
for?
yeah. We call them
I didn't know.
yeah. It's
Huh.
like autism and ADHD together, so you can have both diagnosed.
Okay, so my son, yeah, because I didn't know that for sure. Because I have like one son, the one that I do have with autism, that's 9. He has the ODD with it. So he's one that I'm like, I've tried to medicate him a couple times, and it just doesn't work. He does the complete opposite. He's horrible. So I'm like, you know what? We'll just keep doing what I've been doing with him and not medicate him because he's better.
Because sometimes because it's such an overlap. It could be it's not oppositional defiance. It could be ADHD, and certain meds don't jive with ADHD. So it could just be they're missing a diagnosis, they're missing certain keys. And because in certain areas, you have to get a diagnosis with psych versus pediatricians because they're not trained. And he could be just ADHD, autism, and he's naughty like a car. Special.
Huh. Well, yeah, that's what I was wondering because I'm like, yeah, no, like it, like to me, it's like he should respond. Like his one brother has the ODD, like he's better with the medicine. We want him on that one. I'm just saying. But I mean, like, but like this one, I'm like Jeffrey. He is very much. He has like he's special. Like he's different. He's gonna be a farmer. I can tell you that much. He very much can tell you about tractors. Like he's got skills of lining stuff up. He still does that on some of his stuff. Don't touch his stuff because everybody in the house, like he's got. I've got 8 kids total that are living. So I mean, like with him, he's the boss, and they all know when the boss is around. Don't touch his toys. Don't this. Don't that. The boss is around. But as soon as the boss is gone, his toys get played with. I'm just saying. So it's like with him, it's like he runs like the show almost, but at the same time, it's like I'm working with him on, okay, so we gotta be able, I really need your help to help me with this brother, like on this thing, or I really need your help to not hurt this one because we just really got to be able to make this work, like I'm trying to help him to not be so, because he sensory seeks. So he is always seeking. So one of the things that he would do when he was toddler age was he'd get up on the kitchen table just to fall down and hit his head. And we got cement floors. But he kept doing that repeatedly. I got so bad that we took in, like my mom and I, we took in, I'm trying to think, those things that you it's not duct tape. I know it's not duct tape. It's the bungee cords, what I was thinking. With the bungee cords, we literally took bungee cords and strapped all the chairs together. And my husband, he wants to try that again with the one kid that we've got that's doing that. He's 18 months old, does not have autism, but I mean, like, he just keeps wanting to go up there. And it's like, the bungee cord doesn't work. We've already been there, done that. It does not work. The kid wants to keep falling. They will. They haven't hurt bad enough. And then once they get hurt bad enough, then they'll stop. They're like, we pretty much figure that out.
They will figure that out. But yeah, if you seek sensory seeking is just figuring out what really works that's safe enough for their sensory system. Because my nephew needs that, and he was a jumper, so he would jump off whatever. And at one point, my niece would just catch him midair and be like, "We're not doing that today." But the older they grow, it changes. So you just got to figure out it, it, they outgrow it, and they see different sensory things as they grow. So he may outgrow it. I haven't seen my nephew jump off of things lately, and he's in 5th grade. So
Well, yeah, and Jeffrey hasn't done that for a while too, because it's been a couple years that he's gotten on the kitchen table and done that. But I mean, like, still, it was like one of those things of like, does this kid not like understand? He could get hurt. Like,
no,
it was just like one of those things. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's really weird. And then like one of the things that we've gotten was the sensory swing. Like we got one of those. Those are so helpful. I mean, like the other kids like it too, but I mean, it was just like one of those swings that he's used to help him. And so he'll go on that sometimes, but I mean, like, it's been a while on some of that stuff. It's like I forgot like the meltdowns and all that, because it's like I've done so much work with him that I'm like, it's good, but now a couple of those meltdowns have been back because of the medicine, and it's like they're horrible. They get older, they get stronger.
I hate to say it, but if if you teach them how to calm their own nervous system, because it's going to be with them lifelong. I wish I could tell
Yes.
you I don't melt down. I do. I have meltdowns, but
Yeah.
it just looks different as an adult. And the older they grow, different things can soothe the nervous system, because it's not just like you can numb it with alcohol, food, video games,
True.
all the things. It can be anything can numb it. And you want them to learn things like journaling, exercise, good food, air, healthy things instead of the things that can just easily numb it and be addicting.
Well, that's a good thing because I'm already well on my way. Because I'm like, I've been teaching him, instead of using his brother, the punching bag. We literally have a punching bag. I'm like, go use that instead of wanting to hit the wall, because he'd asked me if he could do that. And I says, no, you can't hit the wall, but you can push the wall. So I've been switching like all the things that where he's seeking to exercise is what I've been doing. And I've been trying to think of like the different ways to get that same, because he always wants heavy. Like it's very
Hey,
heavy.
Marshall,
So I've been
it's
switching.
fun because it teaches him discipline and it teaches him to use his body.
True. And it also probably help him teach him like where his body is at
It's
in the
space.
space.
Mhm,
Yes. So so you mentioned that you have meltdowns too.
mhm.
So how can autistic adults manage meltdowns after feeling overwhelmed?
So it's going to depend on the adult and if they know their nervous system. And that's the hard part, because it's a trial and error. Because the things that used to melt you down as a kid is not the same as an adult. And an adult, you have so many hats that you wear now. And for me, sometimes you have to know your limits and know your boundaries and be able to put boundaries in place. And that's the things that we have to learn to teach our kids, is learn to say no, and masking. And that's the other thing. We have taught kids for so long to mask, but we don't haven't taught them when it's safe to take the mask off. Because sometimes it's not safe to mask out in the world. We have taught them, hey, you can go be your authentic self. And really, in the world right now, it's not safe
No.
because it really isn't. So, but they need to know where it's safe for them to take that mask off, that they can be themselves, who to take the mask off for, when to take the mask off, so they're not so overwhelmed and so tired that they are melting down and feeling like they can't be their authentic selves. And parents too, parents mask just with their kids, because how many times have parents gone out with their neurotypical friends and tried to make their kid feel like they're supposed to be neurotypical and they're neurotypical parents, and they're feeling bad because their kid is autistic? That's not fair to parents either. You guys, you guys deserve a break. You're doing just fine. Everybody out there that has an autistic kid, you're doing just fine. Take off that mask. You're fine. It's nothing
Yeah.
wrong. It's
And
okay.
yeah, I've experienced that out in public before. Like during COVID, it was horrible because I'll never forget it the first time that Jeffrey all of a sudden had another need. And it's like out of the blue, but he opened up the freezer at Walmart and he just started licking the inside of it, inside of the freezer door. And I was like, I looked at him, I'm like, do you need your tongue squeezed? He goes, shakes his head, yeah. And I was like, okay. So then I started squeezing his tongue and I'm like, huh, this is something different. Like I've never had to do that. He was like 3, 4. I'm like trying to think how old because he's 9 now. I'm like, it's 2025. But anyways, still, it's like during that time, it was like, okay, this is something different. Like it had switched and I had no clue. And I haven't done that for a while because I'm like, well, squeeze your own tongue now that I'm, at a certain point. I'm like trying to teach him like when he can catch his own things that are coming up. I don't know what you call them, but I mean, like for him, it's like now he knows when he needs his tongue squeezed. He'll just do it himself. But I mean, like these different things, I don't know what they're called, but it's to me, it's just like there's something.
It's just
You know what I'm talking about? Like,
sensory seeking input. Like he's like, I don't know what I need, but I know my nervous system needs to be calmed down. It's just in something he's anxious. And so he's like, I need something to calm my nervous system down because his nervous system is on high alert because he doesn't know what's going on. Because you got to
yeah,
remember, the autistic brain likes patterns. And if you can't recognize the pattern, he's like, I don't like this. What is this? I don't like it. What can calm my nervous system down? And for that, for whatever reason, that was the thing for that day.
well, yeah, and it was really weird. I remember that because I know like the brain loves patterns. Like that's how it thinks and remembers things is in patterns. So it's like even with him, it's just like it was weird that he had did that, but I'm like he's hasn't done it for a while. But it's like trying to catch the things that he's seeking before he does it has been the thing that I've been trying to teach him now. And that has been more challenging. Like, okay, if you need to be like squeezed, like we'll squeeze his arms all the way down, like squeeze his arms and squeeze his legs. But it's like, okay, you're old enough now, like you're 9, you should be learning how to do this on your own to catch yourself. But is that one of those things like when you said like parents out in public? I know when he was at a birthday party, like all the kids, they were all together playing. And I was there, he couldn't go by himself. He has trouble transitions away from me. But anyways, all his friends were doing the party. And then here he is, he kept coming back to me and I'm like, okay, I can tell that you're unsure. Like, do I spend time with mom or do I spend time with my friends? It was that first like, aha, like this is a social awkward thing that he's trying to figure out. Like, how do I do this?
So for those kind of situations, social stories are good. Like when you go to parties and you know he can't
Yeah.
transition. So it's like, okay, I know we're gonna go to this party. It's not gonna be exactly the same. So you just do a social story. You'll be like, okay, we're gonna go to this party. I'm gonna tell you a story about how this party's gonna go, and you put his name in it, and be like, okay, so what mom's gonna do? Mom's gonna sit here, and this mom's gonna sit here and watch you do this party. So this is what's your son's name?
Jeffrey.
Okay, so you're gonna be you talk to Jeffrey like he's in the surgery. Like so Jeffrey's gonna come into the party and Jeffrey's gonna look at mom and say, Mom, I'm gonna go play with my friends over here. And all the friends are gonna you try to make it as detailed as possible so he knows somewhat what the pattern is gonna be. So his brain could be like,
I had a time.
yeah. So and then you try to kind of put in what happens if Jeffrey gets overwhelmed. You're gonna be like, okay, so if Jeffrey's feeling like I don't know what's gonna go on in this transition area, what do you think Jeffrey should do? And you let him figure it out and say, Jeffrey, what do you think you should do if you get overwhelmed? And then he can start plugging in things before like big events because like you said the brain loves patterns and if it has like
Yes.
some kind of template that'll give him a template of okay this is what we do in these type of social situations and then he'll get the nuance of okay this is what parties are somewhat like okay I'll be fine and so that's how we do social stories.
Well, no, that helps because I'm like, well, I should. It's one of those like aha moments for me. I'm like, well, I'm a hypnotherapist. I know how the mind body works, and it's like, well, I know all you do is you tell the story to the brain. That's pretty much what you do in hypnosis, except that all depends on what the problem is that you're working on, releasing. But it's like it's the same thing. Just prepare him ahead of time with the story of what he's gonna be doing, so he's not so scared of it. And I'm like, well, duh, that's a great way to do something.
But you're
Those aha moments, I love it.
but when you're a mom it's not like you're gonna go in and be like this is what I should do. No, you're a mom. You want to come home and you just want to be mom. Like people look at me all the time and they're like, you figured it all out. And I'm like, well, No, I'm not an OT at home. I'm just April, the mom. Do you really think my
Yeah.
kid looks at me and says, she was an OT? I'm just going to listen to her. No, I have the same issues that every other
Well,
parent has.
no, that's good to know then, because like, I guess my kids, they just want me to hypnotize them to go to sleep at night because they like that. They're like, Mommy, do that one thing, where you're saying you're getting sleepy, and I was like, that's not how it goes with the pocket watch. They know that because it's like that's a lot of people think that's how you hypnotize somebody. I'm like, you can, but I mean, like, whatever. But it's just it's
They love it though.
yes, they do every single night, and I'm like, okay, but it's fun at the same time because it's like there's other things that they want me to do, and it's like just wait, or like the one like I'm trying to think now. I did that to Lester. I took it. He knew I was starting to hypnotize him because he was already tired. So I used it to help. And I was like telling him a story. And then he was looking at me. He was starting to go in the hypnosis, like, look, because they looked like they were asleep. Anyways, he started doing that. And then he all of a sudden, he shakes his head and looks at me, starts laughing. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that right now. I was like, okay. Because he was so tired. I'm like, just might as well use it, So it's just like one of those fun things my brain just thought of right now. But I'm like, because you're talking about like at home, it's like you're not the OT, you're mom. And it's like trying to separate that sometimes can be challenging, I think, for us parents, because it's like, no, we're mom. We're not always working all the time. And so it's like, what is like the biggest challenges that you've noticed like in transitioning like from when your son was 4, the way it sounded, from when he no 10 is when he got diagnosed,
Mhm.
but you were 4 years into it when you had him, wasn't it? You said, I
Well,
thought there was like
he
4 years
was
difference between something.
when he was diagnosed at 10 officially, between like us really figuring it out. It's trying to put everything in place and catch up. The good thing is because he had spina bifida, he always those services were always in place. It's just we're playing catch up. I'm like, listen,
Yeah.
this kid is running rampant because listen, he just was not into all the things education. If it was not interesting, he wasn't doing it. And I knew how smart he was. Like, this was a kid at 5 memorizing all the volcanoes, the last time they erupted, what dates they erupted, and what a volcanologist was. I didn't know what a volcanologist was, so I didn't teach him
I
that.
don't even know.
I was like, so I knew how smart he was. He just,
Yeah.
if it's not interesting, he ain't doing it. So school was always a struggle for him. Now, could he do it? Yes. Did he? Yeah, when I was screaming and threatened that he was going to be a homeless person if he didn't get through school, that
Yeah.
motivated him. But how much easier would it be for parents if we could just have our diagnosis, quit treating us like we are crazy, quit gaslighting us? We're not nuts.
Yeah. I don't like the gaslighting that the doctors do, or like it's just I've had too many gaslighting doctors, and I'm just like, no. Like in my own personal thing, that's how I'm like, okay, this is just too much with the way some people do stuff. And it's like, we're not the ones that are crazy necessarily, because you're only with us like not even 20 minutes in the office. It used to be back when I was knee high to grasshopper. Now it's like 5 minutes they're in, and then they're already on to the next patient.
It,
But I mean, like,
it got to such a point with the gaslighting that I had to start telling them what I did for a living. I'm like, you know, I was a former nurse and I'm an occupational therapist. And then they were like, oh, yes, oh, give me the things right now before I go off. And parents shouldn't have to get to that level,
mm-mm.
not ever.
Well, no, and that's frustrating, especially because you've got the background, like the nursing. You've got the background in the OT, and then they still didn't want to help. And it's like, I kind of dealt with that a little bit in the public school when I had my son there, before I transitioned him to homeschooling. but it's like they didn't catch all the stuff that I was catching. But it's like, yet they kept saying he didn't have autism just because he didn't have, he had eye contact. And I'm like, do you recognize? It's like, I was the one getting that kid to do like the eye contact. Like, you very much can tell he is, it's weird, but it's like when I'm watching him in a conversation with somebody else, he's like already one step ahead of where that conversation is supposed to be, but he's already got it thought out. So then when he brings up something like in the conversation, the other person hasn't even thought of it yet, but he's already thought of it and had the conversation. It seems like.
The problem is it's a spectrum, and what
Yeah.
people haven't learned is if they are at one end of the spectrum, it doesn't mean not all of them are going to have poor eye contact. My son had complete eye contact, and they're like, he's very social. I'm like, and he's lining up his cars. He doesn't want to play with other children outside of family. Do you think that is normal? He
No.
eats rice every day. I can't get this kid not to eat rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Mine was yogurt.
Listen, and for all you family members out there that are like, my kid only eats nuggets, pizza, and all the things, mine did too. He didn't die. He is now 23 and he eats everything. He just ate like octopus and squid before I took him to Marshall. So their palates do change. He does try things. If he doesn't like it, he will spit it out in a restaurant. But he will try it. So don't feel like it's the end of the world.
Well, yeah, it's not.
And I know those parents that had speech therapists and OTs, they're like, you need to it's not. I was like, listen, if your kid wants to eat bananas, ketchup, and peanut butter all together, let him do it. You're not going to die. You're perfectly fine. Mine lived on nuggets, pizza rolls, and he's perfectly fine. I raised him as a single parent till he was 18. And I'm an OT. And I didn't kill him.
Well, that's a huge plus. Like, I think some days I'm like, with all the kids that I've got, I'm just like to the point that if they're still alive, they didn't hurt anybody, they didn't kill anybody, I kept them alive. That's my day. Yes, it's a huge win. There's 7 of them boys and only 1 girl. That's a huge win for me. I'm just saying.
And that's what I think a lot of therapists don't realize. Like, they assume all parents are 2-parent households and they can do all the things. And I'm like, you're assuming the word. I mean, you're not taking into account that household could be 1-parent household working 2 jobs. All the kids could have autism for all you know.
Yeah, true.
You don't know the socioeconomics. You're just assuming. You can't. You don't know what's going on in the background. You don't know if somebody's having help. You don't know if that parent is having an emotional breakdown themselves, because it's hard.
Yeah.
Because you can be isolated because you don't want to take your kid out, because you feel like if you take your kid out, you just feel like all eyes are on you. And it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, it can be very challenging. So it's like I said, I know that struggle, and it's one of the things that I've tried to talk with other people, like in business, like some of those questions that I've had. I'm like, how do I, like, it's like you struggle with this, or at least I've struggled with it, is I have my own business. I want to do certain things in it, but at the same time, because he's only 9, I'm like, yeah, I've got the other kids, they're fine. But it's like with him, it's like, it's almost like a stopper of like, okay, if I do this, how's that going to affect him? Because it's just like something that I'm always thinking about. But then you ask anybody that has their kids that are normal, quote normal, that don't got the autism, and they're like, well, you just do what you want to do. The kid will just have to deal with it. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. Like, do you realize, like, he's my 3rd hip that I didn't know that I needed? Like, I've learned more from him. I'm not sorry, but I've learned more from my son than I've ever known was possible.
And that's
You
the thing. It's no simple answer because,
know,
like, you have a kid that has autism, that has different needs, and you're like,
yeah.
and you have a beautiful option. You have the option to homeschool them, where I didn't have that option, nor would I ever want to. Not that I don't love my kid. I just know my limits. I know I'm not
It's
stupid.
hard. It's hard. Like last year, it was all just work on behaviors. That's all I did last year. I'm like, I didn't do nothing with the reading and the writing. And, like I did a little bit what I could, but I'm like, it's just working on behaviors alone.
And there are schools out there, but they're so expensive and there's so few. What are you supposed to do? So if you have that conversation with your friend that says, you can just do this. Okay, don't punch him in the face. That's assault. I know you want to, but you just take a deep breath and you woosah and say, so listen, I understand you're trying to help, but my kid is not like your kid. And you do what's best for your family and don't worry about it. You can't compare yourself. Your situation is yours and your journey is your own. And you do the best you can with your kid. And you listen to podcasts like mine or like yours that are trying to give you the answers that are out there. And there are more and more podcasts coming out that will give you that support. And that's why I created mine because I mean, not only are kids needing that support, but adults need that support because listen, raising kids ain't easy. And when they're on the spectrum, you're like, I need an adult.
I just remind myself that I don't want to go to jail. So it's like I don't want to do anything. And then I've had a couple people look at me like, what? And I'm like, I did that's how I do it sometimes. Like I just remember like, like when things is so overwhelming, it gets so stressful sometimes. And it's like when Jeffrey's had like the behaviors like where it's not like where he's like violent, where he's like hurting everybody and anything, but it's just like you can tell that he's got something going on. And instead of like him going and hitting, I just like taking and just he calls it tying them up. But I mean like I take his arms and he's making a bear hug, with himself, and then I'm just holding him and I'm just letting him cry and experience those emotions because it's like it's
This is
safe
just
for him. And that's why I'm like, it's
big
not like where it's yeah, and it's not like violence where like people think that they're out there hurting like really, really bad. It's just like some of those things I've noticed they get worse, but it's like just let them just melt down in your arms. Like literally, that's what I've
and sometimes it's just
been
those
doing.
big feelings and they don't know what to do with it. And that's when they
Yeah,
have to let it out, let them scream, let them just get it out of their system, whether they have to just run or just cry. Just let them get that meltdown out. And when they do, they'll feel so much better. And it's very common. It's just that when those are heavy, big emotions. And as an adult,
even on adults that well, yeah, and adults that don't got autism. Have you seen how a lot of them handle the behaviors? They're breaking stuff. They're treating other people like crap. And I'm like, and you don't got a medical reason for this. Okay.
right,
Like
exactly.
that's why I'm like, he isn't doing that. But I'm like, because I'm working with them, like actively, like that's why I'm like, well, he's not like violent, like crazy people like that are breaking stuff.
And
But I mean, like him, it's just like he's wanting to do something, and it's like, okay, well, what can we do instead? Push the wall. We can take and hit the punching bag. We got like other things, like an animal has helped him out a lot. So how does a person stop masking and embrace that authenticity without that fear of judgment?
that's a hard one. That's really hard. And it's really just learning to accept yourself and love yourself and being comfortable with yourself. And really, if it's up to parents to say, hey, you're okay the way you are. You don't have to be anybody else but you. in this age with social media, it's going to be really tough because it's always that compare. They're always going to compare themselves to their peers. And it's really giving them that root of you don't have to be just like them. You are you, and your journey is your own. So, and making them feel comfortable and lean into their strengths. The weaknesses don't matter. Lean into their strengths. Everybody has weaknesses, but it's their strengths that are going to get them through.
Yeah, I'm trying to build on some of those strengths too, because I'm like, that's what I've been doing with him is making sure like he wants to be a farmer, like I said, and just like, okay, I don't know if it'll happen or not, but what I do know is that if I keep pushing him towards it, because that's what he wants to do, if I keep leaning into that, that's the only way I've gotten him to learn so far. I'm like, we'll go with that because that's what's motivating, that's what's driving him. And then like the other thing I'm thinking is how does like what's the best way that you've noticed to like calm the nervous system because there is such a wide spectrum like mine is sensory seeking and he can talk but then there's some that I know can't talk that
It's
you
just
know
really, like I said, it's a trial and error. Like some love that compression, some can uh some love the squeezes, some love sound. I'm a big sound proponent. I love headphones. My son still loves his music in his headphones. There's some music on YouTube that have frequencies in their
well,
music.
like binaural beats I've heard of
Yes.
those.
And different frequencies will calm them down. Certain foods, like peppermint. If you're having big feelings, sometimes peppermint will just calm you right down. If you're feeling really sad and you know they're just feeling like, "Ugh," give them something really sour or really hot, like red hots or sour lemon. Snap them right out of it. If they are just, it's just learning what they're needing. Like my nephew usually is a biter. He's 10. So we're like, you're having big feelings. What is the usually it's something that if he's backed in a corner or is something fearful,
Hmm.
you just got to figure it out. It's there. Your nervous system is a puzzle, but it's really making them feel safe. So you want to shut it off. Find something that you know will make them feel safe. That's the first thing. And then you can figure it out from there. Everybody wants to feel safe, and that's the one big thing about autistic people. They want to feel safe. Make them feel safe, and then work from there.
That is true. That sounds that's one of those things that I'm thinking about like for my own son I'm like yeah that's the safety part like even from like when he was little because it's like there's certain things I'm like I could not do for the life of me because it's like where he was at that stage in life and then it's like well it's some of those things that I've forgotten about like when he used to run off they just like run off out the house and it's like okay some of that stuff was scary obviously but I mean like some of that it's just like um, I'm glad he doesn't do those things anymore because it was scary because that was the time when he couldn't talk. Because I'm like he didn't start talking until he was 2.5. So I'm like I made sure to get his ears checked, like everything checked, and like nope he can hear. And I'm like, are you sure? Because you got like these monkey things here, like with the pictures, like the monkey flap thingy majiggers. And I'm like, you know. I don't know if those machines like he can actually hear and it's like no they said no he can hear just fine he just has selective hearing and I'm like I don't know, but no, he can hear. But it's like I was wondering, like, how much of those things actually block, like when a kid is trying to learn, like when they're taking like the hearing tests, or they're, taking those type of tests, when they've got those gimmick things in there, it's like, is that what the kid's looking for more than the actual paying attention to like where the sound is coming from?
It's
So,
weird. And like my nephew didn't decide to speak until he was 5. And my oldest nephew figured out was because he was watching cartoons that didn't have language. So he went on Netflix and blocked all the cartoons that didn't have language. And then all of a sudden he started speaking. He started using words. We were like, why didn't we figure this out? But
Huh.
yeah, so kids are just
They're
different.
smart.
I just did an interview with a guest by the name of Dr. Lisa Bloom that it could be too, and for all your listeners out there, there may be mutism because they're confusing autism and mutism, and it could
They're
be overlap.
different.
They're very different. So, and some people are not getting the diagnoses right. You could have both together, or it could be different, and you're treating the mutism like autism, or you're treating the autism like mutism.
Huh. I forgot about that one too.
So it
Because,
could be one or the other, and it's so similar, but if you're not really trained in it, you'll miss it.
well, yeah, that's I was thinking like the OT, like if you ever see those, not just like the dual diagnoses,
Hmm.
but like when you're an OT, like you, like I said, for about um, like the hearing boxes, that's why I was like wondering about those even because it's like I said, like those things, it's like, do they throw off the tests when children are having those done? Like OT, I know you guys don't, do you guys do the tests? Like I've had Jeffrey at the testing here, like OT, like they would do certain tests to see like his progress that he's made.
Hmm.
But do you do those type of tests then too to see like the progress?
It depends. Every OT is different, and every OT should be specially trained in certain tests, especially if they're going to deal with autism, because tests change every year. And I listen, I love my profession. I do. I love all my OTs. But if you're still doing the same old thing every year, and I'm like, is your OT neurodivergent? Like, it's not the same. Like, I'm like, if your OT is not neurodivergent, they're not going to understand exactly how it feels to be autistic. And some of those tests have been around forever. Have they updated? I'm like, how specially trained are they? Like, if they're still using like some stuff from 1980, you might want to ask them, how updated are you? And have you done any retraining and how specialized are you? Because, or I'm gonna get y'all in trouble. So, or if y'all are still seeing OT, say, hey, my kid's about to transition out in high school. What is the plan? How are we going to make him go from this to this? Because after 18, there are no services. What are you going to do? What's your plan? Because if they don't have a plan, be scared.
Well, yeah, that's my other thing I was gonna ask too, is because it's like you are right. Like once they're 18, it's like a you have to have a plan. Because I'm thinking like I was actually wondering like how many adults with autism can still get in trouble like legally, like more like if they get into more trouble than the people who are quote normal because they just are not understood.
Listen, so for all parents out there, if your kiddo is still on like state aid, they can't get services until 21, I think, if nationally at least. So you still can get independent services for independent living skills for speech and OT, and they can focus on independent living. It's not just for speech, it's not just for talking, it's just they can do executive functioning skills. And OT can focus on community services and all those things. So don't let them tell you anything other than that. But also, you need to get your kid involved in being their own advocate and get them involved early, like middle school early. Like, figure out what they like and what they want to do and start pushing the plan. because after school, ain't a whole lot of transitioning unless you're in a school that is well prepared. And not everybody's school system is well prepared because you may get a piece of paper called vocational rehab and you're like, that's it. And you're like, what happens now? And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get an OT. So,
Yeah.
and you want to make sure, does your kid need a transition program? Is your kid wanting to go to college? Does your kid just want to get a job? Because it's still an 85% unemployment rate for autistic young adults, and it's not their fault because we're still,
Huge, 85%.
yeah, and it's just because they still make stupid questions, and autistic people don't do well with questions on the spot.
No, they don't. I can tell you that with my son.
Like, we had to practice with my son to get Kroger because we're like, oh, he ain't gonna, this is not gonna go well. But
Yeah.
there, it's still in this old system and not playing to their strengths, helping them as mentors and all the things that they should be playing to, and not preparing parents what's after because parents are just assuming there's something there. And I'm like, nope, those transition programs cost money out of pocket unless you've already been saving for them. There are schools, if they do want to go to college, that are that have autism specific programs. Not all schools have autism specific supports and they're not all equal. And you don't want to send them to somewhere where there's just accessibility. That's not the same as autism specific because they will crash and burn.
Yeah, because it's like I think about like the workload, like because I've done the college thing. Well, I think I've done it, but then I've done it online for the hypnotherapy. So I'm like, I've done the college online hypnotherapy. I can do that. But when I was doing some of the other courses at college, like where you're going to and from, and the workload is horrible. And then you have to have a job in between that, and it's like, damn, it's like it's almost like preparing you for parenthood.
Yeah.
In a way, it's like that's what they should have told you. Like that was 18, like you go to college, like you're told to do.
Right.
And it's like they should have just told you straight out the bat, like this is preparing you for parenthood. You work,
Yeah.
you go to school, and this is like your parenthood. Like this is like what we're preparing you for. Like forget the sleep, forget the whole you get to do anything. Like this is like
Listen,
parenthood. I'm not saying that it's bad because I love being a parent, obviously, but like they really should have put it that way. Like when you're 18, like you want to go to college, already just like it's a baby.
it's a big thing because like
Yeah.
they're on a regiment in high school. College, they're on their own. They're living independently. Like my son is, I told you, he's 23, failed out of 19. It took that much of a maturity for him to pull it together to be able to do this. And he's got a heavy course load. He's got 14 hours. He's doing like an AutoCAD, math, a business writing class, and an English writing class. And then he had a university class that ended early. So think about all those classes. He checks his laptop to school every day. All his books are online. So he has to read all his books online. Learn how to manage his food account because they do it by swipes. So, and he does his own laundry and he's got to manage all that. And then I tell him, go to the gym because he'll have his meltdowns. I'm like, go to your gym and learn how to do social time because he's got to learn to be social and not stay in his room.
Yeah.
So he's like, that's a lot for somebody who's autistic, all that change. And he's out of state. So
Yeah, that's way too much. That's why I said it's like I said, it literally prepares you for parenthood. 'Cause you don't get saved.
so
I should know 5 week old. Well, that's my youngest I got right now. But I'm like still. Oh yeah. Yeah, that my oldest is 10, like all of them boom, boom, boom in a row. But I mean like still it's like So I'm thankful that they sleep when they can, but this is the first one that's been up during the night, and I'm like, the other 7 were just fine, but you, no. So it's like I'm like, sleep would be nice.
Yeah,
I figured out a
that's why I want to tell parents. I'm like,
yeah.
that you got to start. Like, start middle school is where you want to start having them in their IEPs and see where they are, where they need to be. And if your OT or speech therapist say, I want to just be consultative, and that's not going to work, you can just be like, that's not going to work for us. This is where my daughter wants to do. You need to make it where she can get there.
Well, yeah. So then how can they build independence when everything feels daunting? Like not just for the parent, but then also for the autistic child as well that's now an adult.
Well, small baby steps, because listen, I, I kept my kid out of college his first year. He came out of high school during COVID. So I knew we weren't going to college that first year because I was like, I'm still getting you up and you're not taking a shower. It's okay if they stay home longer. It's okay. Don't compare yourself. Remember that they are going to mature slower than their neurotypical peers, 30% slower. The neurotypical peers won't have it together until they're 25. That's the brain. The brain won't mature until 25.
Yeah.
They're slower. So it's a thing. I
Not
told y'all I didn't pull it together until I was 30. And I had a kid at 26. I know y'all are like, oh my gosh, you didn't kill that baby. No, I didn't kill that baby. Thank God. So still I'm a mom. So give yourself a break. But you have to also know this is a transition for your young adult and the parent. The roles change. You are no longer an authoritative figure, and they know this, unfortunately. They know they're adults. So you're going to have to, we got to have a meeting of the minds. You can't just tell them what to do. Y'all are going to have to treat each other like roommates and adults. And they're going to tell you about yourself, and you're going to have to listen to it.
I'm already there with mine. The one, he's only 9. That's
So
a good reflection.
y'all are gonna have to. You're in the consultative role. Just remember, when they graduate, you're consultative, and sometimes you're gonna have to make them do the hard things. They're gonna fall. They're gonna make bad decisions, just like you did. And I know you want them to avoid them. It's not gonna work. Just like you tried to avoid. We did all the things our parents told us not to do. We did it. And we're like, we should have listened. They're going to do the same things. That's how we learn so they can grow. That's how they're supposed to do it. So if they want to go out there and it's going to be scary for you, they're going to go out with some friends and they're going to start dating. That's why you want to prepare them now. So they have good boundaries, so they feel good about themselves, so they can see red flags. Now, if you got those adults and they're at home and they're just gaming, this is where you want to be like, okay, meeting of the minds. Why are they gaming? Because sometimes they're depressed. My kid was gaming, and that's because he was just depressed. A dopamine hit. Get them out of the house. Figure out why he games. Ask him why he games. It's a skill. It actually is a skill. Say, hey, what is it with this game that you play that you talk to all these people on the Discord and play for all hours? What do you want for your life? Because I'm going to die. Sometimes when you put it that way, it hits them in the face because they don't think about these things because we've protected them all their lives. So they just think we're always going to be there. When you sit them down and say, you know what, I'm going to die one day. What happens if I die tomorrow? It forces them to look at life with the reality that you're not always going to be there to catch them. And for those parents out there that are like, I don't know if I knew that. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to die. Do you want the state to have them? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I work for long-term care and it's not pretty. It's not pretty right now. And if you're thinking that housing with SSI is great, I'm going to tell you it's scary. And they're not going to live in the best of places. And there's not enough housing right now for those that are autistic. What happens is those with disabilities get thrown into housing with everybody else with a disability. Is it fair? No. That's just how our government is right.
To get in contact with you.
I have a link tree, so they can go to Linktree, which is weird. It's linktr.ee/adulting with autism. It has all my socials, my merch shop, and where I podcast. So you can find me there.
As always, I just want to thank you for your time and energy while listening to today's episode of Healing for the Soul podcast. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Healing for the Soul podcast wherever you get your downloads, you're listening to your podcasts, and keep coming back for more episodes. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your energy while listening to today's episode of Healing for the Soul podcast, which also can be found on YouTube.